Hi quilters! Thank you for coming back to my channel, Pages and Stitches. My name is Kelly. I'm very happy you're here with me today. Today is Saturday, April 30th. April 30th. It's the last day in April. We're just making it in under the wire with my April update. And I'm excited to share with you what I've got going on this month. I have some whip updates for you. I have just a little bit of haul. I'm just referencing my notes over here. I do have 2 new starts because I have no self-control. And then we'll go over plans for what I want to do for the next update. So before I do anything, I want to share with you my reading update. It's not nearly as much as it was last month. I did more creative things these past few weeks instead of just reading nonstop. So I finished my last book that I told you I was reading. That was The Invisible Life of Addie Laroux by V.E. Schwab. I finished that one. And then I read The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. And my current read is Her Soul to Take by Harley Laroux. I'm assuming that's how you say her last name. But anyways, quick and painless, that's my reading update. Okay, so let's start with my whip update. As you can see behind me, I've put far more blocks together for my Stay Gold panel quilt by Ruby Star Society. I will insert a picture here of what the finished product is supposed to look like. And I wanted to let you know that I've sort of changed my mind with how I'm going to complete this quilt. So as you can see by the picture, it has sashing between each of the blocks, white sashing with navy blue cornerstones. And I've pretty much decided I'm going to nix the sashing, because even though I like it, I like the way it looks, while I've been putting the blocks on my design wall here together, I kind of come to the conclusion that I actually really prefer the way it looks like this, without the sashing and all the blocks together. Ultimately, I think it looks a little bit more bohemian, like almost like it's scrappier. So yeah, I'll bring you in for a close-up so you can see more of the blocks that I've worked on. I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. I've done 11. Here, this one is the middle. So once I get here, I will be over the hump. I'll be halfway, and I've finished this block here. So I just have this one, and then I'll be to the middle. And these blocks come together so fast. Basically what I'm doing is, like, in the mornings when I have a few extra minutes, I'll just come in here and knock out a block. And that's kind of how I've gotten this progress done. They just come together so fast and they're so enjoyable. I really just love the prints and the way all the different designs in each of the middle squares sort of pop once you got them all together. So that's where I'm at with my Stay Gold panel quilt. Really loving it. And I can't wait to show you what it looks like once I've gotten the rest of the blocks sewn together. Okay, so next I want to share with you the haul that I purchased over the past few weeks. It's not much, but it also kind of is. You'll see what I mean by that in a second. Okay, so first let me share with you this pattern. So this pattern that I got, that I'm going to share with you, is a free pattern by Tilda, Tilda's World. Tilda's World is the website where you can download it. I will link it down below. And here it is here. It's called Embroidery Flower Quilt, which you can see right here. And the entire thing, including the background, is done completely in 2-inch squares. These are all solid colors. And when you put them all together, it looks kind of like a cross stitch pattern. I mean, if you're familiar with my channel, obviously I like cross stitching and quilting. So this is kind of like the perfect hybrid to my two passions. So my mom actually sent me this on Instagram. This is how we found it. And I immediately was like, well, obviously I'm doing it. So I downloaded this pattern and got to work planning it. Okay, which brings me to something else I want to discuss. As you can see, the pages over here are all perforated because, well, like a typical millennial, I don't own a printer. And I don't know why millennials don't own printers, but for the most part, we don't. And then the work printer that I normally use is black and white. And I really wanted this to be printed in color so I could reference it when choosing my solid colors for the pattern. There's not like a specific fabric line that she says to use for this. So you just kind of like pick and choose your own colors that vaguely match what she has listed. So I wanted to be sure the pattern had the colors on there for when I was choosing my fabric. So what I did was I utilized an online printing service through UPS. And I'm here to tell you now, do not use UPS's online printing service. Use somebody else. The reason why I thought to do this is whenever I was in college getting my theater degree the first time, I used to print my scripts and have them bound like this with like a fun picture as the cover. And I used Kinko's. I don't think Kinko's is even in business anymore. And if they are, we don't have one here. So I was like, okay, there's got to be other places that do it. And UPS just happened to be the closest location to where I live that did. So I ordered them online and it was a disaster because I ordered it to have a spiral binding. And when I went to pick it up, first of all, when I went to pick it up, it wasn't ready, even though I showed up like 3 hours after the due date. And then they were like, oh, just come back tomorrow. The person who does it isn't here, so he has to do it for you tomorrow. And I was like, for some reason, I just knew in my head that if I showed up the next day, it would be a wasted trip again. And it turns out it would have been, because when I showed up, it was due on a Saturday. I actually showed up to pick up the printing on Wednesday, the following Wednesday, and it still wasn't ready. So I don't know if it's UPS in general, if it was just my location, but they were not on top of it. And then when I went to pick it up, it wasn't all together. It was printed, but it wasn't bound. And then they went to put it together with this guy, which is like that alligator claw kind of plastic flimsy clamp. And I was like, wait, that's not supposed to be what it's bound with. It's supposed to be bound, spiral bound, you know, like a notebook. And they were like, this is all we have. So this is what you're going to get. And I was like, cool. So glad I paid for the spiral binding. I don't know if they were a different price, but that's what I paid for. And this is what they gave me. And then the second they handed it to me and I opened it up, it fell apart, which is exactly why I didn't want this, because these are open. So they had to rebind it. And as you can see, the binding is not centered on the paper. So then the pages were like hanging out of the clear plastic cover on the top. On the top they were hanging out. They were up over here. And then the clear plastic cover was too big. And then the images, as you can see, are cut off at the bottom. It's supposed to have this white border all the way around, and it's not, it doesn't. Fortunately, I went through it all and I'm not missing anything from the bottom, but just all together, that experience was garbage. None of that really has anything to do with quilting, but I just wanted to let you know, if you are going to use an online printing service, do not use UPS because they stink. All that to say, the next bit of haul I want to show you has everything to do with this pattern. So I went to Fat Quarter Shop and I ordered a whole bunch of fat quarter bundles, solid fat quarter bundles, like way more than I feasibly could ever possibly need for this quilt. So I ordered 6 different fat quarter bundles of solids, and I squished them all in here. And this is everything that I got. So, like I said, way more than I would ever need for that quilt. I could have gotten away with like a much smaller amount. But the reason why I wanted to get all those fat quarters is because I have another project in mind that would need solids. That is actually my next, one of my new starts. And I'll show you that in a second, but that's why I sort of went overboard with the fat quarter bundles of the solids. So I will insert, because obviously I've already opened them all, I will insert the specific fat quarter bundles that I got, and I'll show you. I'm just referencing my notes so I get them right. The first fat quarter bundle that I got is called Blossoming. It's mostly the pink colors. I have Harvesting, which is mostly like oranges and some kind of gold brown colors. I also got Sprouting, which is the yellows and greens, more yellow than green. And then I got Summering, which is more like teal colors. It's kind of on the blue side, but it's more like teals and kind of a peacocky green colors. And then I still needed like a handful more purples and greens, so I supplemented those 4 big fat quarter bundles with the Lucky Bella solids, which are all greens, as well as the Lavender Fields solids. And those are smaller fat quarter bundles, but they're more in the colorways that I actually needed more of. So I got all of those on Fat Quarter Shop. They're all still available. I'll link them down below. Like I said, way more than I ever could actually dream of using in one quilt. But if you go back and look at my stash video for my Quilters Corner, my first Quilters Corner video, where I kind of go through what my fabric stash looks like, I don't have any solids. That's not true. I have white, I have black, and I have brown. I don't even know why I have the brown. Like, I don't know where I used it from. I have white and black, which are kind of, everybody should have white and black. But I have, those are the only three solid colors I have. And if I wanted to do this quilt, the Embroidery Flowers quilt, and then the other one that I'm thinking of, I needed more, like way more solids. So I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna dive head first and flush out my collection from the start. So the other haul that I wanted to show you that has to do with this quilt here, like I went ahead and just got everything that I would ever need to finish this quilt. So I got all the colors here, and then I also got the background is another solid. I got it in Prussian blue which is a Kona solid. That came from Fat Quarter Shop as well, and that's the name of that color. But then for the backing of the quilt and the binding, I got some cool fabric, so I'll show you that next. Okay, so the backing for that quilt is this right here. And this is an Anna Maria Horner fabric, and it is from her Love Always line. It's from her Love Always line. It's called, I don't remember what it's called. I will insert the name of it. There's a name for this particular print, and then I believe the colorway is called Candy. It comes in like 3 or 4 different colorways. So I will insert what it's properly called. But the reason why I chose it is because since it's all like pixelated, it looks like embroidery, just like the quilt. It has that same sort of style. And it's got these cool kind of like doily looking pieces right in the middle. So this is the backing. And then for the binding, I got this beautiful bright golden yellow. And this is called Bijou by Figo Fabrics, Figo Fabrics. And so it's got these gorgeous crosses on it, just like cross stitch, just like embroidery. And it's also got a metallic, you see some of those X's in there are metallic. So this plus the Anna Maria Horner print, which are both like just beautiful bright colors that also are vaguely reminiscent of embroidery, are gonna be perfect for that quilt. And those two fabrics came from my local quilt shop, which is Lone Star Quilt Works. So I will link their shop down below as well. So the next thing I want to show you is my 2 new starts. So obviously the first thing I started was the embroidery flowers quilt. So what I did was I cut all the pieces out, which took forever because I want to say like 2,000 squares of just 2-inch squares. And so the finished size, because they're 2 inches and you lose a 1/4 inch seam allowance on each side, the finished size of the squares are 1.5 inches. Oh, I'm going to tell you the dimensions of the finished quilt. So the finished size of each square is 1.5 inches, but the finished size of the quilt, is pretty big. It's like bigger than I thought you would be able to accomplish with just 2-inch squares. But the quilt is about 63 by like 84. So I mean it's a lap quilt, but it's pretty sizable and for just a bunch of 2-inch squares sewn together. And the way the assembly goes, there's diagrams in here that show you everything, but you put it together in like sections and then you put all the sections together. So I have started this already. I will show you what that looks like on my design wall, but I've just done this section, or I've just put it together on my design wall. I haven't actually stitched it together because I spent all this time cutting out all these different squares. There's a bajillion of them. That's my first new start, and that's gonna be a lot of chain piecing, but it'll be nice that it's broken up into sections so you don't feel like you're doing like a really long row of chain piecing and then do rows at a time. I think it'll be easier to get more accurate stitching that way. There's 46 colors in total. That includes the background color, and some you only cut out like 6 squares, but some you cut out close to 100 squares. It just kind of depends on how they lay out in the pattern here. But I will show you what it looks like on my design wall. I'll show you all the squares together, and then I'll give you an update on that. Okay, so my next new start is kind of a unique one. Okay, so I have a Pinterest. I've had a Pinterest forever and a day. And then I have a board that's just dedicated to different color palettes. I use that to reference, you know, whenever I'm choosing colors for a new quilt or for a cross stitch project, or, you know, just random creative things. And so there's these different like color palette pictures that I will insert examples of here, where there's like on one half of the image is a photo or a piece of art or something, and then on the other half of the image there's colors pulled out of that photo to create a color palette. And I have 1,000,001 of them saved because I use them all the time. And I was looking at them not that long ago and I was like, those kind of look like quilt blocks. And then I was like, I could make those into quilt blocks. And that eventually became, no, I'm gonna make those into quilt blocks. And then I was like, Okay, well, I have to buy all these solids for this embroidered flowers quilt. Now would be a good time to start that quilt because I know I need a lot of solid colors to create the color palettes. So that's why I kind of was like, I'm gonna need a little bit more than what this quilt calls for. So I went ahead and I made up a block for the color palettes style, and I'm still kind of experimenting with size, but I want to show you what I'm talking about. So here is the block that I made up. You might recognize this print if you've seen my other Quilter's Corner. I used this fabric to make my apron. It's just a mushroom print. And what I did was, there's, you know, a handful of colors in here. I pulled out 5 colors and cut them out from the solids, and I made a color palette. And I just think that turns out so stinking cute. The sashing in between is just a solid white. This block measures currently 12.5 by 12.5, so finished size that it would be 12 by 12. I debated doing this in 10 by 10 blocks, but I think I like this size. I don't know, I'll see. I don't know if I want to do it this way or the other way. I'm also playing with the idea of sewing them on the diagonal, and that way I can kind of rotate them around. I'm just using, so my plan is to just choose a bunch of random fabrics. Like, I want this to be as colorful as possible. It's gonna be like a rainbow of color palettes. I'm not going with any specific theme or season or, you know, designer or whatever. I just want a bunch of really pretty colorful fabrics like this that I can pull at least 5 colors out of to make a color palette, and then I'm thinking I might rotate them and put them on a diagonal. I have no clue what the finished size of the quilt is that I want to make. I just caught a wild hair and decided that I wanted to turn those color palettes into a quilt block, so I did. I'm just gonna kind of make them as the fancy strikes me and see what they amount to. But I just think this turned out super cute. These white bits I cut them at 1 inch, so the finished, it's probably a little bit more than a 1/2 inch between each color. But I really like the way it turned out. I'm really excited to see what else I can accomplish with this. Okay, so it's gonna be kind of a shorter video this time around because I didn't do too much. I worked on my Stay Gold, I worked on embroidery flowers, and I worked on the color palette quilt, which is what I'm gonna call it, is color palette quilt, because unless I come up with another name, that's how it exists in my head. For the next update, I just want to continue working on those 3 projects and get some more progress. Hopefully I'll get close to finish with this quilt top, and then make a final decision on whether or not I want to do the sashing. I don't think I want to do the sashing on it though. That will change the finished size, if you're wondering. With the sashing, the finished size of the quilt is 92 by 92. Without the sashing, that brings this down to 80 by 80, I think, which is a more manageable size. If I'm going to quilt it myself, which I probably will, I don't know yet. It's still kind of like almost like a twin size quilt, like a large, it's not a lap quilt. Lap quilt's probably like more 60 by 60, 70 by 70. So once you start getting into 80 by 80, it goes up to probably about a twin size. And then I need to piece together the fabric that I got for the backing. Obviously, if I'm not doing the sashing, the quilt is going to be smaller. I don't have to piece it together. I might not even need all 3 colors that I bought. I'll have to figure that out. So that's the other thing I'm going to do. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do the backing, and I'm going to get that together. And then hopefully get this finished in the next, at least the blocks finished in the next few weeks. I'm gonna get the section 1 of the embroidery flowers quilt stitched together, and then get started on the next section. So because that quilt and then also this color palette quilt just started, I kind of started on a whim. They're not really my priority. This one's more my priority. And then, so between, like if I want to take a break from this or between blocks, that's when I'll work on the other ones. I want to do some more color palette pieces, some more blocks for that, just so you can kind of better visualize what I'm talking about for what I want to do with that quilt. I have no idea for that one, when I put the blocks together, if I want to just do white sashing between the blocks, if I want to do something else, what that something else might be, I don't know. It might strike me like a bolt of lightning when it happens, or when the inspiration comes along. But I'll definitely let you know. I'll think about that over the next month too, and then hopefully I'll have an answer next time I do an update. And then also, I still need to quilt my cinnamon toast with all my Anna Maria Horner fabric. I've finished that quilt top. I got the back piece together. I just got to do the sandwich and then do the quilting, which, as I said last time, is my least favorite part, the actual act of quilting. So I just got to kind of buckle down and do it, and then I'll be done. You know, once it's finished, then you just got to do the binding and then you're done. I'm just referencing my notes real quick to make sure I haven't finished, or I haven't missed anything. I think that's everything. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. I will link everything I mentioned and that I can think of down below in the description box. And that's everything, I think. I will see you guys at the end of next month with my next update. Have a good night, guys. Bye.